Now we start with Middle East. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has made a surprise visit to the U.S.-operated Civil-Military Coordination Center as American forces work on the planning and implementation of Phase 2 in Gaza ceasefire deal. The center was established to support destabilization efforts inside of Gaza and facilitate humanitarian and security assistance that is under development as part of the broader Trump administration peace plan. The Director of National Intelligence revealed that right now 16 countries and 20 NGOs are working side by side as part of this multinational civilian and military force aimed at bringing stability to Gaza, while ushering in a new chapter for the Middle East. Now for this discussion, we welcome Yossi Cooper-Rosser. He's an Israeli intelligence and security expert, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Yossi, for joining us today. Now, looking at this, how might the U.S.-led civil-military coordination efforts in Gaza influence Israel's security strategy moving forward?
Well, I think we are definitely in line with the Americans, and we all want to see the implementation of the peace plan that was put forward by President Trump in late September. And this center is coordinating mainly the military activities that are happening on the ground and the civilian activities, everything that has to do with aid and humanitarian aid flowing into the Gaza Strip. I think so far we are working very well with them. There might be some points of disagreement in the future, and right now, for example, there is this issue whether we should allow the Hamas terrorists that were caught in the area of Rafah in southern Gaza Strip, to leave safely the places where they're under siege of the Israelis, or shall we insist on them giving up and going out to our custody? And the Americans are trying to convince us to let them go, and we refuse to do so, especially because they were involved in terror attacks against us after the ceasefire came into effect and actually breached the ceasefire and killed 3 Israeli soldiers. So this is one point where we can have different opinions, but definitely on most issues we see things eye to eye. And the fact that the Americans have proposed now a resolution for the Security Council about the implementation of the Trump plan that is very much in line with what Israel expects is a testimony for the good relations that characterize Israel and the United States. What we see is that the Americans are very committed to moving forward with this plan, including the disarmament of Hamas. That's a very positive indication from an Israeli point of view, because that's exactly what we want to see happening.
Although you mentioned that American and Israeli interests are aligned, what risks and opportunities does this multinational stabilization force present for that area's long-term regional interest?
Well, first of all, it has to do with turning Gaza into a place where there's not going to be terror attacks against Israel like the 7th of October terrible massacre repeating itself. That's the most important thing, and we all want to see that happening. Secondly, if the plan is implemented with the involvement of all kinds of Muslim and Arab countries, then there's a greater chance that this would lead to widening of the Abraham Accords, and the visit of Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia in Washington is very important in this respect. Also, the visit of President Shara from Syria is also important. Maybe this would lead to some security arrangements between Israel and Syria. We are hopeful that the solving of the problems in Gaza would pave the road for better relationships between Israel and its neighbors. And we are looking forward to see how the Americans are masterminding this operation and overseeing it.
With that, I would like to thank Yossi for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay in the topic. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is urging Israel to allow foreign journalists into Gaza now that a ceasefire is in place. According to sources, some parts of Gaza remain more dangerous than others, with Israel still in control of the eastern half of the Strip, following the October 10th start of the ceasefire. Even so, the Trump administration has renewed its request for journalists to be given access to the Strip. Israel's policy, determined by the defense minister and the IDF, has been to deny independent access to all journalists to Gaza since the beginning of the war. It has, however, allowed Israeli journalists and, to a lesser extent, foreign journalists to enter Gaza as embedded reporters with IDF forces. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Yossi Cooper-Wasser. He's an Israeli intelligence and security expert, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Yossi, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, could increased U.S. involvement and U.S.'s push for the journalists, allowing the journalists to enter Gaza, does it affect Israel's autonomy in managing its border and defense policies?
No, the question was that the problem was that there was a war waged in Gaza, and we were worried about the security of the journalists. And many of the journalists that operate in Gaza are actually terrorists disguised as journalists. So we have to make sure that that this is not the case with those foreign journalists that are coming in. As long as Hamas is there, we are hesitating whether to let the journalists in if the implementation of the plan is going to proceed as planned, and Hamas is going to disarm. I don't see any reason why we won't let journalists in. But so far, the war is not over. There's a ceasefire. It's not the end of the war. And we have to see Hamas disarmed before this can happen. There's an American request to let them in. We should have to look at the details and modalities of who is going to be allowed to enter, to where, and so on and so forth, because we don't want to put anybody in harm's way.
And how might this phase of the ceasefire deal reshape Israel's relationship with neighboring Arab states and international partners?
Well, this ceasefire is allowing us to better communicate with our neighbors, and especially with the Egyptians. I think they are playing a major role here, and some others. And we want to see them involved in the next stage, and we have to discuss this with them. Everybody understands that nobody is going to be able to operate in the Gaza Strip without our consent and approval. And that is why we have to discuss with everybody what kind of activities they're going to have in Gaza, and how this is going to be in line with widening the Abraham Accord and making it the agreement regarding Gaza, jumping board for widening the normalization of relations between Israel and its neighbors, and bringing not only its neighbors, by the way, beyond its neighbors. I hope that this will affect also our relations with Indonesia and other countries in the Muslim world, and we shall find a way for these countries to be integrated into the implementation of the plan in Gaza, and also establish better relations with Israel.
Right. Thank you very much, Yossi, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay on the region.